This is the BODAR Blast by the USS Decatur, with your host, Lt.j.g Daniel Ehrlich. All views expressed on this show are not those of the United States Navy and made by the individuals who are on the show. All music used is used with the permission of the songwriter or is royalty-free. This is a feature production of the USS Decatur and is made free to use and free for all the families and supporters of the USS Decatur DDG 73. Old and daring.
And welcome to the BODAR Blast, the Navy's best podcast out at sea. I'm Lieutenant Junior Grade Danny Ehrlich, and I'm your host on the BODAR Blast. And thank you for joining us for another episode. I'm very excited to talk about some of the topics today. Welcome to the show. It's been a couple weeks, but we have a really awesome jam-packed show today, including a really great interview with HM2, Hospitalman or Corpsman second class, Steven Grabbit, and it's going to be an awesome interview. But to start out, we've been pretty busy. You've probably seen on our social media some of the photos posted by the social media of us working internationally. So we've been working with a couple of other navies internationally, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, or the JMSDF, and then the Republic of Korea Navy. We've worked with both of those navies within the last few weeks. Amazing time doing exercises with them, working with them, learning about their culture and how they do things out here has been really enlightening on our part. It's the first time for me, at least, that I've been able to work with other navies, been able to work with other countries out here and see how they work and how their navies do things. So it's a pretty cool experience, not only standing bridge watch, but standing watch down in Combat Information Center or around the rest of the ship and interacting with those navies. And we all want the same things out here. We want a free and open Indo-Pacific region, and we want to work together with our allies and our partners. And we are proud to call Japan and the Republic of Korea and their navies very proud allies of ours. So we're proud to work with them. And then we had a little bit of an arrival recently. Our executive officer, Commander Matthew Furtado, departed the ship. He is off at school preparing to be our next commanding officer in a few months. So farewell to him. Best of luck at school, sir. We're very excited for you to come back very soon and be our new commanding officer. And it has been, on a personal level, a pleasure to work with you as an executive officer. For everybody at home that had interactions with Commander Furtado or may not know much about our executive officer, Commander Furtado is truly the message and the just the bearer of consistency. He is a genuine, consistent person. You know what you're going to get from Commander Furtado, and that's fairness in everything, that's upholding standards, and that's being a good leader. And Commander Furtado displays excellent leadership. He's been an excellent leader, mentor, teacher to me, to the rest of the junior officers, to the rest of the officers in the wardroom, the chief's mess, to the crew. So from all of us, sir, we are very happy to have had you as our executive officer for the last year and a half, and we'll see you back soon again. So, but we do welcome our new executive officer, Commander David Husher. So, Commander Husher, welcome to the USS Decatur. It is a pleasure to have you on board, sir. And I've already talked to you a little bit about the podcast, but hopefully we get you on here at some point in the history. You're going to find that this command is full of a lot of amazing daring raiders that really care about the mission, really care about their shipmates, and really care about the Navy and defending our country and serving Americans back at home, and that's really what matters out here. So, sir, again, welcome. And for everybody at home, Commander Husher is our new executive officer. So moving on, though, we've got a few awards and people that were recognized recently. And to start out, congratulations to my really good friends, co-workers, and now new surface warfare officers, Lieutenant Junior Grade Brandon Choi and Ensign Mitch Pan. Both of them got their SWO pins. Like I said about Lt.j.g Davies getting his, it is a momentous occasion for every surface warfare officer, prospective surface warfare officer to get their SWO pin. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of studying, and it's a lot of time where people may not see you studying, but they definitely can tell when you are studying, when you are focusing. And it is the focus of our first tour as division officers is getting our pins. So reaching that pinnacle achievement, or at least the first pinnacle achievement of your surface warfare career, is very important. So to both of them, hopefully I'll be joining you very soon, but both of them put in tons of time, really devoted people and amazing officers of the deck, and so congratulations to both of them. And then a few personnel that got meritorious advancement. So we have a program called MAP, which is Meritorious Advancement Program, and it's a program where Commander Jimenez, as commanding officer, can exercise his ability as commanding officer to promote enlisted sailors before they would normally get promoted, or before they are able to get promoted, based off of long-standing. And it's a great program that allows Commander Jimenez to recognize sailors that are exceeding their expectations of their current rank, or may not have picked up their rank, but certainly have earned it at this point. Maybe in a rate that may have very slow advancement just because of advancement rates. And there are many rates like that. You'll hear from HM2 Grabbit that the HM rate is one of those rates where it takes a long time to make second class or first class in that rate, because there's only a small amount of HMs, and so there's only a certain amount that can get advanced every so often. So congratulations goes out to GSM-3 Arsenal, CS-3 Petway, CS-3 Soto, and BM-3 Deep. So the four of them picked up third class. And then congratulations goes out to HM2 Grabbit, EM2 Hightower, and finally congratulations to IT1 Hernandez. So all of our MAP awardees, congratulations on making your new rank. It's exceptional work to get recognized at a command level and then receive rank is a special moment. And so you might have seen our social media posts about it, but it is an amazing moment for them, and I'm happy to share that with people and sailors that I've seen learn and grow and advance my 2 years on board, and have definitely put in amazing work to earn those ranks. So congratulations to all of them. And then just kind of wrapping this up before we get into our interview, is I know some people have asked in Q&As a little bit about me, the person that I guess is behind the social media, behind the camera, who I am a little bit. And I am a junior officer on Decatur as well. I am one of the anti-terrorism team members, as well as the division officer for the fire controlmen who work on the close-in weapon system on OSS, and a couple of other systems. And so I lead sailors. I also am concerned about programs, so I also have collateral duties as an officer as well. So a lot of senior enlisted and officer, senior leadership have collateral duties. Since we're such a small ship, we don't have specialists on our ship that are able to provide us legal. We don't have a JAG that can provide us legal duties. We don't have a various representatives for various programs that can provide us assistance. We don't have specific people for public affairs or for weather or things like that. We are the aircraft carrier does. They have a lot more personnel than we do, but for specific programs on this ship, a lot of senior leadership take courses or take classes and then are trained and are certified to be able to hold collateral duties. So, for instance, I'm the collateral duty legal officer on board, along with Lieutenant Junior Grade Marana and Lieutenant Junior Grade Oberhaus, and we make up the command legal team. And so we're junior officers that are not Judge Advocate General officers, so we're not JAGs, we're not lawyers, we haven't been to law school, though Lieutenant Junior Grade Oberhaus does aspire to be a JAG and go to law school. But we have gone to a course that teaches us how to deal with military law in its most basic aspects, be able to care for our command on basic legal functions. We are certified notaries. We're able to notarize documents. So we provide the first couple of tiers of legal support on the ship for the command. For instance, MWR, our recreation, morale, wellness, and recreation. Normally, if you are on an aircraft carrier, you would have a civilian representative from MWR. That would be their sole responsibility as they work for MWR. Well, we have a couple of personnel on our ship that are trained on how to work MWR, and they are the ones that handle MWR functions. So they are the specialists for that, even though that's not their primary line of work. And so the other one I have is I'm the unit public affairs representative, which is the collateral duty public affairs officer for the ship. So I do all the public affairs stuff, but I'm assisted by the amazing MC2 David Negron, who is the actual person behind the camera a lot of the time for the photos you see, for the videos you see, for a lot of the content that we send out. He is the person that is the true muse for our public affairs program. So he does amazing work for Decatur as a whole, and as a specialist in his field. He is truly a professional in what he does. So that's really how collateral duties work. And then I've been on board for 2 years. I'm from Northern Virginia, Springfield, Virginia specifically, about 15 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. So I grew up a Washington, D.C. sports fan. I'm very into sports, so I love sports. And one of my true passions after Navy service is to go into sports broadcasting. And so an avenue for that is learning how to podcast and getting the stories from our sailors out to you. And that's really what my goal with this podcast has been. And I hope that this podcast has achieved that because, it's a very important thing to me and holds a close place in my heart. So I'll tell you guys a little bit more about me every week, but I know people have been asking questions about it. So without further ado, we'll have HM2 Grabbit take away, our wonderful interview guest this week, and I'll see you on the other side. And I'm joined in the USS Decatur wardroom by HM2 Hospitalman Second Class, used to be HM3, Corpsman. I'm being told off mic. You have a mic in front of you. You can speak.
It's definitely Hospital Corpsman.
Hospital Corpsman Second Class, Steven Grabbit. So congratulations on getting mapped. So for everybody at home, mapping is what's called Meritorious Advancement Program. So it's basically a spot promotion or advancement to the next pay grade for enlisted sailors for just excellent performance. They might not have gotten picked up in the last round of advancement because of testing or percentages or stuff like that. The HM community is very tough to advance in, so well deserved, and congrats on that. How did it feel?
Honestly, sir, so for us, for the corpsman, right, so I came here as an E3, started off, so in 2021, right? Yeah, 2021 January, came here as E3. I've been in the Navy about just shy of 3 years. Then that coming September, the following September, was mapped to third class, which was, really good too. And then being mapped to second class literally 20 days ago, roughly. So I'm hitting my rank marks a little before the margin. I believe the average E5 within my rate is 6 to 6.5 years. I hit that before I hit 5. So to be an accomplishment as well, and then also coming out of this command with the pin, it's really big. It's really big for me. It means I have exceeded the expectations that my chief is before me. Extremely grateful to be in the position where I'm in.
Yeah, and I mean, it's got to be tough to be in a community where, it's a really rewarding community, and you guys do some excellent work. But it's got to be tough to see other people promote or advance faster than you. How do you kind of keep yourself in the game for that? Keep yourself in the right mindset.
I mean, the biggest thing for me is I know my test is very diverse. There's a lot of factors that go into my test, where there are some rates where it's more straightforward, like a straight shot. I have a lot more topics to cover, so it's hey, I gotta do this, and this. So outside of keeping my mind studying, trying to do better. I didn't cut too well in the last test I took, or the test prior. Right, I'm not a good test taker, and I know this. So a big thing I pride myself on is my work ethic and how hard or how much I care about what I do. So if I know I'm not cutting good scores in my exam, I know, okay, well, if I work really hard and I just keep going, I don't stop, maybe there's some rewards out there. I can reap what I sow there. So just constantly pushing forward, pushing myself past my limits. I think you've seen us when we're in port. I stay up for 24 hours some days on duty days, just working. This stuff has to get done. If it has to get done, it has to get done. I'm not worried about sleep. I can sleep on the weekend, or I can sleep on my day off. If I have to get something done, and there's a deadline, I make sure I hit that deadline. So I would just say it's persistence, and just knowing that stuff needs to get done, and there's only 2 of us, so if I don't do it, is my counterpart going to do it? And if I don't think so, then stepping up and make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, so being a corpsman on a small ship, what are some kind of your responsibilities as and what does your rate exactly do?
So the hospital corpsman rate, originally known as the La Bali Boys, way back when, our job is to provide health care, mental and physical, to the command. So that's about 300 to 3 ratio, I guess you could say, right? Because there's my provider, which is my chief, and then HM3 and then myself. So we provide health care. So we have sick call, which is more like acute, 24 hours. If you come in with a cold, or you come in and you're I banged my knee yesterday, can you just take a look at it type. So very short, maybe a 15-minute appointment, short note, here's some stretches, let me wrap your knee, or here's some meds, right? And then we do appointments, which are more chronic, so stuff that's going on for a longer period of time, maybe 4 or 5 days, or 3 weeks, or 8 months, right? That long period. And as well, a big part of what we do is, for the operational sense, is readiness, right? So making sure sailors are mentally and physically ready to deploy. Because if they're not mentally and physically ready to deploy, they're not going to be a good fit, right? We've had sailors, we had to be hey, well, this sailor's currently not fit or whatever in the past. So it's PHAs, stuff like that, make sure hey, they have all their immunizations, X, Y, Z, and then it's a lot of admin. So a lot of stuff that people don't see, right, is all the admin we do. So we do flight deck physicals, right? Make sure people can go on a flight deck. They can do flight quarters or whatever. Well, they have to be qualified to do that, which results in we have to do vision tests, doing vision tests and whatever, right? So they can go on the flight deck. Well, there's admin that's involved in that, right? There's a physical. We have to annotate hey, well, this is their colorblind score. I'm colorblind, so I can't go on the flight deck, right? So I fail the Easter hour plate test every time. But I make sure that, hey, these people can see color, they can see depth perception, X, Y, Z, and then that's getting it signed by our provider and then putting in the record. And every single thing that people come to medical for has to get signed by our provider, if not our provider at a higher authority of an actual MD, and then go into their record. So it's constant admin work that people don't see, right? But we're also involved in about every evolution, from flight quarters to a RAS to seat anchor to OC spray for weapons. We're some way, shape, or form involved in almost every little aspect of what goes on from these major shipboard evolutions.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective for everybody at home, you have a doctor that you go to on a every 6 months basis, or if you're feeling sick, you'll go to the doctor's office. Well, at sea, we don't have a doctor's office. We don't even have a doctor's office in port. Our doctor's office is the three of you guys. And so every record that you see the secretary at a doctor's office do back at home in the civilian world, or everything, I see HM2 just going, oh my goodness, but it's true. You do all of the admin that you are a 3-person doctor's office for over 300 people, and it is extremely admirable. And when you think about that in civilian world terms, it's even hard for me to kind of explain or process to people sometimes of like, hey, I get my medical care on the ship. If I need to go to the doctor is back on the ship, and they have to call you guys in.
From a college dropout, somebody who didn't go to college, and someone who's been in the Navy for 24 years with a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, so, sometimes I don't like to think about that. But the other thing is, so many people, including me, we have immense trust in you.
Oh,
so,
yeah. And I think a big part of that comes just with their tradition of the hospital corps. Almost 5 years ago, in school, it's really ingrained in us. This is a sacred job, right? We take an oath, we have an oath, all this stuff. This is to be taken very seriously. And I have seen corpsmen lose their caduce, which for those of you that don't know, a caduce is the little insignia or emblem, if you will, that's on the dress blues, the dress whites. That's our rating badge. But I've seen people get their caduceus cut off because they did not take it seriously. They did not uphold the highest standard of patient care. So, there's a lot that is ingrained into us in school, right? And obviously our chief always is going to keep us above standards no matter what. But it's just it's a lot. So that's why we have so much we get a lot of trust from the communities, XYZ. We're very respected amongst the Marines, amongst Blue Side, amongst Shore, because my rate has been doing this for a very, very long time.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tradition, and we'll get to that in a moment. But you're talking about you're a college dropout, but you're a medical provider. So what are some of the? I know it's funny.
I'm a paraprofessional, technically.
Yes, but what's some of the professional schooling that the military puts you through to be a hospital corpsman?
So for hospital corpsman basic is 16 weeks. You can find that out by going into my Navy HR if you want to really get in depth into it. But it's a 16-week school. It might be a little bit longer now. It was 16 weeks 5 years ago in Fort Sam Houston, Texas, which is essentially the easiest way I can describe it was kind of advanced or accelerated an EMT program. So it was hey, we're doing cardio Monday, Tuesday, neuro Wednesday, Thursday, and then we're testing out on both of those Friday. And that was my week. And on top of that, we're doing PT out in the Texas heat. I'm up here from Canada, so I'm dying every time we PT. But it's a lot of PT because corpsmen hold physical standards really high, as a lot of us go with the Marines. A lot of us have a Marine background. And then it's really accelerated learning. We're learning so much about the body, learning about the central nervous system, learning about musculoskeletal, learning about neuro, cardio, GI, physical exams, secondary assessments, trauma medicine, and there's a whole shipboard medicine section. You've seen the class I teach on board, right? The tactical combat casualty care.
Yep.
So I teach that here, and it's nothing like I wish I could make it because of what I had gone through 5 years ago. What I had gone through 5 years ago was 7-8 days long, 8-hour days each, uninterrupted, just pouring out knowledge, a lot of practical. like getting on your hands, like putting a tourniquet on, stuffing these wounds, but I don't have all these I don't have everything to facilitate that training, just because like we don't have a lot of space. I don't have this stuff ordered yet. I have stuff on order. It's not here. But like that course that I teach here is just a sample of what it could be. It could be so much more, and it could really enthrall and be more stressful. For those of you that don't know, that course I'm talking about is Tactical Combat Casualty Care, which is essentially the course developed by COTC, who founded TCCC. So what they do is they made this method of health or treatment, right, for Afghanistan and Iraq and whatnot. I think it was like 2006 or 2007, early 2000s, and because of that protocol, it's actually saved countless lives over there, over here with just like paramedics, cops, military that's not really deployed, import, etc. It's done a lot.
Yeah, so there's a lot of schooling that goes into it, and I see you guys when I come in there sometimes, because I come into medical to talk to you guys, but you guys are constantly studying, like all the time. What's kind of the studying regimen like for this? I mean, you're literally becoming an IDC is literally eventually becoming like a full-scale doctor, and Chief Ramos is basically a doctor.
I would say. Oh, really?
Yeah.
I would say the closest thing to what an IDC would be comparing to would probably be like a PA. The way I've always had it explained to me in like layman's terms is it's an accelerated PA program, right? So the studying regimen for that is insane, because you have to know shipboard, food and pest, as well as TCCC, general medicine, like the whole 9 yards. So like everything that I went through 5 years ago is like really the basics, and then going through what my chief has gone through is quite literally like, hey, this is provider level information. Like you will be signing off on exams, like you are expected to have a potential differential diagnosis for this patient and report that to your physician supervisor, who then you say yes or no, I agree, or hey, do this or do that, and that's the process in which that goes. So what you see HM3 and I studying for a lot of the time is more or less the advancement test, which is just anywhere from like forms to the anatomy to musculoskeletal to diseases to medication dosages to medication families, types of physicals, types of forms, different types of echelons of care, who the Surgeon General is, the staff under the Surgeon General, and then like every NEC under the sun for us, which is like 20 something. So like I could get asked stuff about dental tech. I'm not a dental tech. I've never worked on dental. The most I've ever done is cement someone's tooth back in a couple times here. And then I could get asked something about like nuclear medicine technicians, which, you know, were on carriers and they're out here just making sure people aren't having too much like nuclear exposure, which I've never even seen. Never worked. I've worked with one nuke med tech, and I've never had that explained to me. So it's so vast amount of information. So that's why you see us where there's like 1,000 different flashcards on the table.
Yeah, and you talked about the tradition and the caduce. What does that tradition and working with the Marine Corps and kind of working across both really mean to you, like the corpsman tradition?
So I feel like the main thing about the corpsman tradition is like, so we were like Bali, like I said, we were Bali boys a long time ago, and eventually like brought in a rate. We weren't like one of the 6 original rates or anything like that. You just see people with the caduce tattoo on their hand like they are. I don't know why. But we get brought in, etc. Right? And for the most part, like with the Marines. So I've never been with the Marines. I've only been shore, and then I've been here for 3 years. But it's like sacred, right? So if you talk to a lot of Marines about Doc is like someone they will protect. If you go to a bar and for whatever reason you decide to get in a fight with the person they call Doc, they will fight you. They will protect that man majority of the time. And how it's been explained to me, and I do have Marine friends, and that's how it is when I've gone to the bar with them. and it's for the sole thing like that is, like you're saying, like your healthcare provider, that's their healthcare provider downrange. That's the guy that they know that if they get shot, he's going to drag them out of that situation. He's going to make it better. That's someone that they know will take bullets for them and make sure they're fine. So there's a level of trust that goes with that it exceeds a lot. I feel like people don't understand unless they've heard about it, right?
Yeah, and so serving with the Marine Corps, for those of you at home, the Marine Corps doesn't have its own medical corps. In fact, the corpsman, the Navy corpsman rate, actually serves the entire Marine Corps' medical side. So you could be going to commands out in or forward deployed in Afghanistan, or Iraq nowadays. It's not in Afghanistan anymore, but forward deployed on the forward lines for that. Or you could be at any Marine Corps base. What have you ever wanted to work with the Marines?
So initially, no, I was not in the best shape when I first joined. Now I work out probably way too much, I would say. I want to actually, so I want to go to IDC school. We're talking to my chief about putting a package in. I want to make sure I know everything I can before I just go in blind, right? That's a very hard school. But if I go, I'm ideally trying to go Greenside, out of Pendleton, or out of, I think it's Kenoi, or however you say it, in Hawaii. So one of the two is where I'm trying to go, ideally.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to work with the Marines. I don't think I'm fit enough for that. So, you did say that you work out and possibly too much. I don't think working out too much is a thing, but of the protein shake guzzlers on this ship, you're probably one of them.
4 scoops a day.
Yeah, 4 scoops a day.
At least on a cut.
You are honestly one of the most dedicated gym rats on the ship. What's your secret? Because you've gotten big over the last year. I remember first meeting you early in 2021 when I first came on board, and you and I were pretty much both pretty scrawny. I've stayed scrawny, and you've bulked up. So what's kind of been your secret?
So for me, having a very high metabolism, I want to say when I got here, I was probably like pushing like maybe 150-ish, maybe pushing 150.
I wish I had a good metabolism.
Maybe a little bit more. So what I had done was I ate a lot of food. I would eat Chipotle 10 times a week. I would eat Subway every night before I went to bed, unless I was on duty. If I was on duty, I would eat 3 meals a day, and then I would have someone bring me probably $40 worth of food, and then I would have protein, and then I would work out. So it was a lot of just overeating and gorging myself, which is technically an eating disorder if you think about it, the way that extreme eating. But I did it to get fat. I had to get fat because I had to put on as much size as possible to kind of sculpt. So I got fat, but I didn't like gain fat weight. You know what I'm saying? I looked fatter. My face got a lot fatter. I got like love handles that I'm still trying to lose right now. Stuff like that. So I ate a lot of high protein food, but I ate a lot. So I was probably eating upwards of 4,400 calories a day for 2 years. And then, or probably like a year and a half, right? The year and a half mark kind of came in, and I just kind of like started eating like high protein food. I would still eat like a surplus. I was still eating probably like almost 3,000, but I wasn't like actively counting them anymore. But I was eating a lot, and then I was like, okay, well, I'm not watching my calories in a sense I need to cut. So I was out every weekend drinking and eating the food from like the street vendors, and like just didn't care. So I did all that, and then probably about like when we pulled in like 2 months ago, right after we left our first port, I was like, all right, well, it's time to start cutting. So I gradually start bringing my calories down, tracking it, watching it, and that's the result. You start seeing like more muscle definition leaning out, etc. Just from lowering my calories, keeping my protein up, keeping my fiber up. Because now I eat 1,500 calories a day, if anything. Which, if you look at that, that's almost a 2,500 calorie difference. Mm-hmm. The average human intake is a minimum of 2,000 calories, so we'll just put it at that. I'm eating below that most days.
Yeah, and nothing against ship's food. It's just there's only so much that can go around. So I've seen weight drop at C2, and it's nice. It definitely is nice. But have you had people on the ship like work out with you, push you? Like who pushes you to continue to work hard?
Like on the boat.
Yeah.
So if anything, honestly, I don't. A lot of people don't ask to work out with me. Like I guess like you could say like being pretty honest, because if I do work out with him, like he'll be like, I know you got another rep. But it's a lot of it's because of how I normally train. I normally train till failure. If you're ever up in the gym, you'd see me. I sound like a jerk. I'm up here yelling at people. I'm in Jermaine's face or whoever's on my. You can put that up again. In fact, you're gonna put that up again. They'll put the weight. Nope, put it back up. Because a lot of people are afraid to train till failure, right? A lot of people are afraid of failure. So if you get comfortable failing in the gym, and not only is it gonna raise your confidence, like failure is a normal thing to do. It's a normal part of life that we're all afraid of, and that's the issue. But training till failure is gonna really push your body to the point where you're tearing those muscle fibers enough, right? A lot of people are like, oh, I'm just gonna do 12 reps. They just do 12 reps and they're not getting any progress because they're not putting any micro tears in their muscle fibers. They're not getting any stronger. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not as much as they could be. I read a whole bunch of books. That's how I ended up learning all this stuff. I have a book by Charlie Glass, and I read Arnold's book a couple years ago, and just putting in a lot of time and energy into research, and then putting it into practical use and learning okay, this does not work for me, because everything you do is different. Like you and I might do pec flies, and if I do them one way, that might not work anatomically for you because the way your shoulders are. Like for instance, my incline bench, I prefer to do incline at 15. Everyone hates on me for it. They're like, oh, you gotta do it at 30. Well, the book I'm reading is saying 45, which is a shock to me. And do I feel it? 100%. I feel it a lot more. But the bearing like it does on my shoulders is so vastly different, and that's the biggest thing, is the approach. You just learn to take different approaches, learn to take criticism, and I feel like that's what helps push you further, because you don't know everything. You could be the biggest guy in the gym, you don't know everything.
Yeah, you gotta work towards failure, and gotta be a student of the game, as some say. You're definitely being a student of the game. So you talked about you and HM3 Jermaine. You guys are, it's you, HMC Ramos, and then HM3 Jermaine, and you and HM3 are the duo. You guys work together. You guys are practically inseparable in there. What's your relationship with HM3?
So he came here a couple months after I did, June of 21. Quiet guy. He's a really nice man. So we started working together. And then he applied for his BH, he got a place. Then I applied for my BH, and we applied for the end of hey, let's you, me, and 2 of our other friends were let's just all get an apartment together. So it started out just kind of working together, hanging out, going to clubs, going to the gym, stuff like that, teach each other stuff in the gym. And then we all got a place together. It just kind of continued to the point where he's my brother, 100%. I'll do anything I need to for him. He's a great guy. He's taught me a lot, because coming from a clinic where I didn't learn general medicine, I learned general medicine when I got here, for the most part. Mainly worked in neurology, cardiology, pulmonology, allergy, and dermatology. I only did a small stint into family medicine, so maybe 3 months in general practice. So he came from a general practice, but he came from internal medicine. So he had already done a lot of the stuff that I had to learn while I was here. So anything I didn't know about physical exams or how to do this or how to do that, he was there to teach me. As well as he used to outrank me. He was an E4 when he got here, and I was an E3. So he taught me a lot. So as well as he's a brother, he's also a mentor in various ways.
Yeah, and you guys, even though you are HM2 and he's HM3 now, you guys still learn from each other and have an awesome friendship.
100%.
Yeah, it's. I really enjoy the brotherhood that develops in the Navy, and you work with people so much that you just learn about them so much that you do really anything for them. So
I feel like that's a big additive to that is the culture of being on a small boy. Just coming from a command where they're shoot, like 3,000 corpsmen in my first command, you pick out you get like in little cliques, right? And some like the Navy's kind of like a high school in a sense, right? You get into like your little cliques, and I think out of my clique for my first command, like one person I actively talk to, out of like there's like one or two, out of a group of like 20. So like you pick and choose. I feel like on a small boy, it's a lot smaller cliques essentially. They're closer, right? And then obviously on a deployment, you get a lot closer people that you wouldn't even think of, right? Like I hang out with first class that I never would have thought I would have hung out with in port, but because very similar mindset, we're like, oh, okay, like hey, you just want to go out and get food and sightsee and get a couple drinks. So do I. Hey, let's be Liberty buddies. I'm not trying to go wild in all these ports, right? So like, you definitely find people in more of like a niche clique on a small board because of the size of the crew. And it's like, it's either adapt to the people around you and break out of your comfort zone, maybe hang out with people that you normally wouldn't hang out with, and then you see like friendships and bonds like flourish through that way, or get left behind because you see a lot of people who just are very stuck in their ways and they end up hanging out with like one person. Yeah. You see fallouts with that a lot too. You see like, I mean, like, what's wrong with your dog? And they're like, so and so did this, and now I'm bad. I'm like, well, it's like your only friend. Like, y'all fight too much. Right. You see a lot of people are too close-minded. They butt heads a lot, and that's the issue as well. But outside of it, I would say it's very easy to get on a small boy, maybe like 2 or 3 people, 2, 3, 4 people, very close, and that kind of becomes like a very close knit clique.
Yeah, and so talking about that, and kind of your life in the Navy, why did you choose to join the Navy?
So originally, I got out of college or got out of high school in 2017. I was 17 years old, and I went to I was like, okay, like let me go to community college because I was already in college at 16, 17 years old. So I was like, let me just finish out community college. I was like, I have like a semester, and like I did like a quarter of a year, right? Like within 2 years while in high school. So I had to go to high school, I had to go to college at the same time. So I was like, okay, well, like it's only going to be like a year and some change for me versus 2 years to get my associates. And I was like, okay, then I'll transfer. So I was going to be a criminal justice major, but I found out I'm colorblind, and somehow that never got brought up during anything. Like I wore glasses when I was younger, I guess. Never was addressed like, hey, like you're colorblind. So whatever, like I signed up to go like on a tour with the Detroit Police Academy, all this other stuff, and then I was like, okay, cool. Found out I was colorblind. Got told by my professor, like, yeah, you can't be a cop. Even though Detroit needs cops so badly, they will not accept you, is what I got told. I was like, okay. So I was working at the same time, and I was like hanging out with a buddy, and my other friend was like, I just got like whatever, that he had ended up being like medically discharged from boot camp because he like broke his shoulder or something. He was like, oh, I wish I could go back in. And I was like, you know what? I can't be a cop, so let me go see what's up with the Navy. And then I talked to the Air Force and all that prior, and then so I was like, all right, well, I want to be an MA. They're like, all right, cool. Like, you want to be an MA, we can make you an MA, or so they said, right? So I go through everything. MA was never offered me. So the first contract I ended up signing was YNS. And then out of all the schooling I would go, because the YNS is for a sub, I was going to be guaranteed second class. So I'd be a second class in 2 years in the Navy. So I'd be eligible for chief if I stuck with that contract. Or probably close to, right? Ended up switching. I was like, I want to do first response. That's all I want to do. I have like no idea what my passions are. I was like, I honestly, like, if I could choose, I want to work. So I was like, let me do first response. If I can't be a cop, like, what else is there? So I'm sitting there. He's like, all right, well, there's MA, which for whatever reason they're not offering. They never told me why, which is hilarious. So it was like, MA, can't do that. So there's corpsman, and then there's damage controlman. I was like, what are those? And they're like, a corpsman's like an EMT, and a damage controlman's like a firefighter. And I was like, oh, okay. And we started talking more, and it just sounded And he's like, oh yeah, like, he's like, you seen Hacksaw Ridge? And I was like, yeah, I just saw that the other day because it just come out not too long ago. And I was like, he's like, yeah, like, you do that. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that then.
Yeah, that's badass.
Like, not really like a care on like what I was like, just get me out of this small town. So I was like, whatever. And the worst part about it is I was not a good student in A school. I got counseled like once. They're like, hey, look, if you fail one more test, like, you're gonna be on des. Like, you're not gonna have a rate. So to see like, hey, I almost fell out of my A school to
putting on second class, you know?
Yeah, it shows how surreal. You know, I was just turned 18 or 19 or whatever, like, back then, so I was young. Didn't care, and I was like... Also, I was like, oh, if I fail out, maybe I can go MA. Maybe they'll just give me MA. It's not how the name works, but that's what I thought.
Yeah. And you talked about being from Detroit. What is it like being from, you know, Detroit, a small town just outside of it, and going to San Diego and then into the Navy and living on ships in really close proximity?
So I grew up in a town called Port Huron, Michigan, which is about, I don't know, maybe like an hour and 15, hour and 20 minutes, something like that, northeast of Detroit, over by Sarnia, Ontario. I could see Canada from my house. I walk down the block and there's the beach and there's Canada. So coming from a really small town and then going, like, not really ever leaving. So that was crazy. I was like, I'm just going to Illinois. Like, that's nothing. I mean, that was a culture shock a little bit just because of the atmosphere. But then going to Texas, like, the heat, terrible. Absolutely terrible. Like, now I can't go back to the cold all the time, which is insane. And then to Pensacola, Florida, where I was first stationed, where it was humid the entire time, to San Diego. So I've only been in like warm areas. So a few times I have gone back have been like in the winter, which is crazy. I don't know why, but it's freezing. Like, I'm in the airport shaking, and I was just like, this is insane.
So what are some things that you do to pass the time on the ship? I know that you wanted like to go to the Mario Kart tournament tonight. Sorry for taking you away from Mario Kart, but what are some things that you what do you do to just chill?
Honestly, so like a big part of it, like to say, like to decompress and get away from my job, is I lift. So if given the opportunity, I'll work out for 4 to 5 hours. And before I work out for probably 4. It's also because I train. I don't train by myself every time, but a lot of people like hear about like, hey, Doc, let me work in with you. I'm like, all right, like, don't waste my time. Don't sit on your phone for 20 minutes during mid-set or whatever. But I work out, so that would be like pretty much all evening from like anywhere from like 9 to 12, and then just like 9 to midnight, and then like whatever downtime I have, I'll be probably like, we have a PlayStation 5 in medical, and we have my laptop which has some games. I got movies on there. As of late, me and Jermaine was just kind of playing the PlayStation 5 a little bit, but I really just work out and sleep, which is not the healthiest way to decompress, but
it's your happy place.
It works for me. So
yeah, it's your happy place.
I don't recommend just going to the gym.
Yeah,
you got sleeping to decompress.
Yeah, you got. Well, you just honestly on deployment, I've noticed you just gotta find your happy place sometimes. It's just something that just helps you
escape work. Oh. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people come in, they're like just stressed, and I'm like, what do you do to decompress? And they're like, I watch a movie in my rack every night. I'm like, does that make you happy? And they're like, I don't know. I'm like, you should find. Like, do you like to work out? Do you like to journal? Do you like to read? I was like, switch things up, man. Like, do something different. Don't get stuck in that same rut. That's a big thing we see.
So, to wrap up here, you are like we said earlier, the ship's medical provider. You've seen a lot of stuff as a medical provider, a lot of things, and has there ever been a time where you have to turn around and you just have to be like, nope, I'm not doing that, I'm out, sorry? Have you ever had a moment where you've bailed?
I think the only time ever, and it's not necessarily because like I bailed. It's just because for comfort of the patient. So like obviously like working in family medicine, there's like we do pap smears, right? So pap smears are like a very typical thing, and like at 20, 21 years old, I don't think any guy wants to be like, yeah, I want to do a pap smear, because I definitely don't. I still don't. Go to the pink clinic. If I don't have to do them on board or whatever, like if I don't have to be involved with it, the more the better. But majority of the time, that's not even been something like that I've turned away from. It's like, hey, like the patient does not want males in there, and that's 100% justifiable. The closest thing I was probably like, yeah, I'm not doing that, was when I did a lumbar puncture. Because I was like, I looked at the neurologist I was working with. He's like, I need you to hold him here. And he's like, you know what? Take the needle and move it up a little bit in his spine. And I was like, what? This needle is huge. It's like a foot long. It's super thick. It's a very small gauge. He's like, yeah, just like move it in his spine. Because we were doing a spinal tap, so we were draining spinal fluid. I'm like 19, so I'm like, I've only been to this clinic maybe for like 8 months working in neurology, and I'm like, what am I doing? So if anything, that would be the closest thing, but I couldn't like just walk out of the procedure.
And you were 19.
It's like 19, yeah. It was like
yeah, you were
19 or just turned 20 or something like that. But I was young.
And it was a spinal tap?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's just...
We're the old man, and then not the fittest man either. So you obviously have to like put them in a fetal position, and I don't like push and hold his legs up in the beginning of the procedure while my HM2 and my neurologist were doing everything, and then I was like, look, my arm hurts. I'm like, I was really small back then, smaller than I was like out here. I'm like, I'm holding this guy up. He's probably like 100 pounds heavier than me, like putting all my weight to hold his legs up, and they're like, all right, we'll switch. And they're like, all right, like move the needle. I was like, what? The needle that's in his spine. They're like, yeah, and then just twist the tap, and sure enough, spinal fluid came out.
That's God, I can't even imagine. You know how much I hate needles. You know how much I hate getting my blood taken, because you've taken my blood before. So, oh God, I can't even think of that. That's definitely a moment where I would just turn around and I would walk. So, you guys do amazing work. You do work that really I don't think I could do. I don't think many others could do. You're an amazing person, and keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for coming on the pod and discussing, including the workout regimen. I need to get into that, and for everybody at home, get into that too. And HM2 Grabbit.
Thank
everyone.
you again to HM2 Grabbit for coming on the show and talking about his life, his career so far in the Navy. Very enlightening to learn more about you from across the microphone. I know you pretty well so far, but I learned even more about you, including some things in your career that I definitely could not do. Gross sometimes. But that'll wrap up our show. I have one more thing. Just if you have any questions you would like answered in the future about the ship, some traditions that we do, we always have our email open to reach out. So if you want to reach out to Miss Cully Sleesman, our ship ombudsman, or directly to me at pao@ddg73.navy.mil, please do. More than happy to answer your questions about USS Decatur and what we do on here. It is a pleasure to talk to you once again, and I hope to talk to you guys again with it very soon, and tell you more about our fun times at sea. So, from USS Decatur, this has been the BODAR Blast. I'm Lieutenant Junior Grade Danny Ehrlich.